Hello everyone, welcome to Vlogmas Day 22. For today's video, it is the highly anticipated, at least for me, top 40 albums of the decade video. Now, before I say anything and get into anything, I want to make you guys aware of something. This is the second time I am filming this video. The first time I filmed this video, let's just say I didn't wake up really well after filming that video because I was literally talking for 2 hours, like a 2.5 hour shoot for a video. It was the longest I've ever taken filming a video. Let me just say that. It was the longest I've ever taken. I actually woke up with my throat feeling just a little bit sore from talking so much last night. Like, it literally went from 2 a.m. till 4:30 a.m. So not only have I not slept well, I also have my voice feeling a little bit sore. So if my voice feels a little bit weird, just be aware of that. Last night, I thought it was a good idea to film a 2-hour and 30-minute video that'll never see the light of day because I know for a fact nobody wants to hear me talk for 2.5 hours. So we're gonna make this sweet, we're gonna make this short, and we're gonna make this good enough for you guys to want to watch because I am genuinely passionate about the albums I put in this list, and I hope you guys, if you've never heard an album, if you've never heard any of the albums that I put in this list, I hope that it inspires you to want to go out and listen to them. So this is how we're gonna do it. The first 30 albums I talk about, I'm only gonna list them. Like, I'm not gonna do any explanation. I'm not gonna tell you guys why it's there. I'm just gonna tell you the title and the artist name. For the last 10 albums I talk about, I am gonna give you guys a little bit of an explanation because they are the top 10. Obviously, this is the top 40 list, but the most important ones are the top 10. So I will run down why they are in the list for the from 10 to 1, but from 40 to 11, we're just gonna list them. And also, I do want to let you guys know, this is my opinion, this is my list, this is the albums that I feel personally made a huge impact, not just in my life, but in the music industry. They've had some form of cultural impact, whether good or whether bad sometimes, but they had an impact. And it's just my opinion on what impact they had. So, without further ado, here's the top 40 albums of the decade. Number 40, Hello, My Name Is, Bridget Mendler. Number 39, Cheek to Cheek by Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga. Number 38, Rebel Heart by Madonna. Number 37, Loud by Rihanna. Number 36, Lemonade by Beyonce. Number 35, Closer to the Truth by Cher. Number 34, Brave Enough by Lindsey Sterling. Number 33, Younger Now by Miley Cyrus. Number 32, Kiss Me Once by Kylie Minogue. Number 31, This Is What the Truth Feels Like by Gwen Stefani. Number 30, Colors by Beck. Number 29, Electra Heart by Marina. Number 28, Femme Fatale by Britney Spears. Number 27, Rainbow by Kesha. Number 26, Pink Friday by Nicki Minaj. Number 25, Body Parts by Dragonette. Number 24, Poppy Dot Computer by Poppy. Number 23, Singular Act 1 by Sabrina Carpenter. Number 22, We Are Born by Sia. Number 21, Look Up Child by Lauren Daigle. Number 20, okay, so I'm gonna have to read this one from my phone. Okay, so number 20. The idler wheel is wiser than the driver of the screw, and whipping cords will serve you more than ropes will ever do, by Fiona Apple. I do want to make some commentary on this album. I will say that if you don't listen to any other album in this list, go listen to Fiona Apple's album, because I will guarantee you it is the most unique body of work you will have in your entire music library. You will not have any other album that sounds like this record. It is just that good, and it makes you feel things in a way that no other record can. So if you don't listen to any other album on this list, I suggest you go listen to this one. Number 19, Maya by MIA. Number 18, Witness by Katy Perry. Number 17, Body Talk by Robin. Number 16, When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go by Billie Eilish. Number 15, Madam X by Madonna. Number 14, 1989 by Taylor Swift. Number 13, Ceremonials by Florence and the Machine. Number 12, 1,000 Forms of Fear by Sia. Number 11, self-titled by Harry Styles. We have made it to the final 10. Honestly, just running down through that list took a lot less time than when I did it the first time, because I literally gave my like 2-minute explanation as to why every album was on that list. And obviously that's great and that's wonderful if you're just reading it, but when you're talking it out, it gets tiresome at some point. So now we're gonna talk about the top 10. Number 10 is Melodrama by Lorde. And this record, I will feel, is one of the most impressive sophomore albums I have heard in such a long time. Dare I say, it is the most impressive sophomore album since 21 by Adele. It is just beautifully crafted, beautifully written, and beautifully made. There's something about this record that you just can't seem to find in anyone else's sophomore album. It is just that good. Some of the lyrics are either beautiful or gut-wrenchingly heartbreaking, but there is definitely something unique and special about the way it was crafted. I think her and Jack Antonoff did an amazing job in this album. Number 9 is Red by Taylor Swift. Arguably one of Taylor's most heartbreaking records. I think this is one record that will stand the test of time within all of her records, because it is one that has the coveted All Too Well, and also the happy song, the coveted 22, because she pretty much owned everyone's 22nd birthday. Next year I turn 22, so she's gonna own that year for me. But, you know, it has some of her most heartbreaking work. It also has some of her most praised and talked about work, like We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, and I Knew You Were Trouble, and Treacherous, and State of Grace. I mean, this record is beautifully made and beautifully crafted, and it was written in such a heartbreaking time for her that, you know, obviously she says that it was tough for her to sing All Too Well after releasing the record, because, you know, she still felt those tough emotions. And, you know, she sings it now, but I feel like a part of me thinks that, you know, even in the back of her head, you know, those thoughts will always stay there, and that feeling and that emotion of, you know, recording and writing that song will forever stay there, because I feel like a song that heartbreaking is just a little bit more tough to grow past of, and, you know, not even for a second to think of those heartbreaking times. And I feel like that's what makes this record stand out above most of her records, and will definitely, you know, remain an iconic album of hers for until 2029, when I make another top 40 of the decade video. Number 8 is Teenage Dream by Katy Perry. This is a record that skyrocketed Katy Perry into the huge mega superstar she is now. It is full of just the most, I will say, the most funniest songs I've heard in pop music. I mean, Peacock is a song that I don't think anybody else could make, and it has such a very obvious innuendo even in the title, but because you associate peacock with a bird, it goes past a lot of people's heads, and I think that was really genius of her to do. And this record entirely is just a beautiful conceptual record. It tells a story from start to finish. It's kind of like a coming of age album, dare I say, because it starts obviously with Teenage Dream and then goes through so many levels and phases, and you feel it getting more and more mature until you end up with Not Like the Movies. And it's a huge contrast from the song Teenage Dream. Teenage Dream is, you know, about living your best life with someone you love and you feel like a teenager again. And then Not Like the Movies is about, you know, being conscious of the fact that your soulmate is out there and they're looking for you, but that it won't be like the movies. And I like that. I love that. And it's a beautiful record to listen to now. Obviously, when it was released, I was 11 years old, so obviously didn't have that much notion of a conceptual album as I do now. So now listening to it again, it feels like some of Katy's best work as an artist. Number 7 is 25 by Adele, and this record is Adele's triumphant return to the music industry. I mean, she had gone through a lot. It's like from 21 to 25, she went through a lot. She had a child, she got married, she also had vocal surgery, which that is very, very scary, because there pretty much is no guarantee if your voice is going to be the same as it was before. But thankfully she had a good team of doctors to help her out, and she came back with this beautiful record. I think this record shows a certain level of growth and maturity that there wasn't in 21, because obviously being 21 years old isn't the same as being 25 years old. So there's obviously a much more higher sense of maturity. And you know, just the fact that, you know, she went through quite a lot making this record, and it took her that much amount of time, and it feels like it took that much amount of time. You know, that's what I like about albums that take a long time to come out, is when they feel like they took a long time to create, when they feel like it was a thought out process to put, you know, this song here, this song there, write about these things, write about these other things. And you can definitely hear that within this record, that this record is a record that took a lot of time to make, and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and passion went into it. Number 6 is Reputation by Taylor Swift. Taylor really dominated this decade. Let me just tell you that. She dominated this decade. This decade was hers. No wonder she's Woman of the Decade. Reputation is similar to Adele. It's Taylor's triumphant return to the music industry after going through so much public scrutiny, so much just hate. I will say hate because it was hate. So much hatred, so much scrutiny, so much canceling, because, you know, I think with Taylor, it was the first time I ever saw Taylor Swift is over, Taylor Swift is canceled, she's canceled, she did this to him, she's canceled. And it was really disgusting. It was a really disgusting time in her career to witness as a fan of hers. But as somebody who is well aware of how she works with her music, in the back of my head I would tell myself, God, the next album is gonna be really, really good. I always kept thinking of that. I was like, man, I mean, this is bad, this looks bad, this looks awful, and this could tear down anybody if it wasn't her. But man, that next album is gonna be really, really good. And guess what? That next album was really, really good. This record will always hold a special place in my heart because it has some of Taylor's darkest work. It also has some of Taylor's best work as a songwriter, although I will say it is second best as a songwriter, and you'll see why later. But I feel like this record has something special that I don't think any other record of hers will ever have, because I highly doubt she will ever go through the same public scrutiny she did at that time. And obviously she is going through a tough time right now with her master recordings, but it isn't as horrible as it was back then. Therefore, I feel like the next album won't sound exactly the same like this one. Number 5 is Golden Hour by Kacey Musgraves. Arguably one of the happiest albums I have in my music library. Golden Hour, like a lot of these records, has a special place in my heart, but this one has a much more special place in my heart because it is an album similar to Fiona Apple's that made me feel a way that no other record ever has. And there are two different feelings that both albums make me feel. Golden Hour makes me feel this comfort, this solace, this joy, this happiness that I rarely hear in music in this day and age. I mean, Kacey was able to create this, you know, bubble of happiness and joy and pretty much take whoever's listening to that record to a whole other world and a whole other dimension. And that is something that isn't easy to do with music. And obviously this record ends with Rainbow, which is probably the song of the decade. It is the song of the decade. And, you know, that song just touched me in such a way that no other song ever has been able to do, not even my own. I have not written a song that has made me feel the way Rainbow feels. I have not heard any other song that makes me feel the way that song feels. And, you know, I am very excited for what the next decade brings for Kacey Musgraves, because I truly just feel she's going to keep making incredible bodies of work and incredible just worlds and universes in general. Number 4 is Bionic by Christina Aguilera. I told y'all this record was going to be there. I told y'all. Bionic is one of the very few records in this list that has been iconic for the past 10 years and will continue to be iconic for the next 10 years, because it was a record that I feel was executed and produced in, you know, way ahead of its time. The music still feels fresh to this day, and that, like Golden Hour, that is something very few artists can do, is create a record that can still feel fresh year after year after year. You know, you hear some songs from some people and you know they feel old because they are old. When you hear Bionic, it feels new and it feels fresh and it feels like it was just released and it was just created, and I think it will continue to feel that way for the next 10 years because it is a record that was so ahead of its time, and the, you know, production of it is so electronic based and it's pretty much EDM based, and it's also has those beautiful ballads that we all know and love from Christina, and it has those really, you know, hypersexual X-rated lyrics too that are pretty relevant still to this day. And it's a record that definitely sets itself as one of the albums of the decade, and I feel really confident putting it at such a high position. Number 3 is Born This Way by Lady Gaga, and this record is a record that, you know, defined pop music in general and continues to define pop music after so many years of it being released. It is a record that has stood the test of time and is one of Gaga's most iconic works, the second most iconic work she's released, and you'll know why later. But this record has helped so many people out through so many tough times, not just the title track song, but also songs like Marry the Night and The Edge of Glory and Hair. I mean, Hair is probably one of my favorite songs from the record, and I think you guys heard that when I went to the pop-up, when I went to the launch party. And you know, it's a song that, you know, has a special place in my heart because when it came out, you know, I, you know, was bullied at the time. I mean, who is it? I mean, most people who are on YouTube are bullied in school. I was one of them. I was bullied in school. Things were really tough. Things were horrible. Things were just not great in my life. And to be able to hear a song like that at that time, it felt like someone was talking to me, and it felt like someone was speaking the words I was feeling. And I think that's the feeling for so many people who've heard this record and has helped them out through a really, really tough time. So confidently, it is number 3 in the top 40 albums of the decade. Number 2, oh my god. Number 2 is Speak Now by Taylor Swift. This is the most coveted, the most prized, the most iconic body of work Taylor has ever released in her career, period. Like, it is her most respected, her most iconic, her most prized body of work for one reason and one reason only. Go through the songwriting list. There is one person in that songwriter list, and it is Miss Taylor Allison Swift. She is the only songwriter in that whole record, and she wrote it when she was 20/21/19. It's between that spectrum, I think so. And, you know, to be 19/20 in the music industry and write a whole album on your own was unheard of at that time. And I feel like it definitely set the standard a lot higher for new and up-and-coming artists who are emerging in the music industry at the young age that she emerged in the music industry. Obviously, back then, people, you know, really heavily criticized Taylor, saying that, you know, it was the people behind her that were, you know, in charge of her career. It was the writers behind her. There were so many writers behind her. So what she did was that, you know what, screw this. I'm writing the next album on my own, and it has become some of Taylor's most precious and most beautiful work as an artist, as a musician, and as a songwriter. And it's definitely an album that I hope she keeps bringing back and back and back on the road for many, many years to come. Number 1, the number 1 album of the decade. Some of you are going to be mad at me, some of you are going to be happy with me, some of you are going to be confused, but this is what I personally feel is the number 1 album of the decade. And before I even say the title, I'm going to tell you why it's the number 1 album of the decade. It is the number 1 album of the decade because yet again, this person has redefined what it means to be a pop star in the 21st century. She has redefined the blueprint for a pop star for the next 15 more years with this record. She has redefined what it is to create an album, what it is to be experimental, what it means to really go out of your comfort zone for the next 15 years in the music industry. The number 1 album of the decade is Art Pop by Lady Gaga. This record is a record that was heavily criticized by some people, heavily adored by others, and heavily caused confusion in other people. It is a record that isn't easy to swallow. It is a record that isn't easy to listen to because some of the songs do come off as bizarre, as confusing, and as just crazy. But guess what? That is the beauty of this record, is that it doesn't fail and it's not afraid to go to places that'll make people uncomfortable. And that is what I love about a record, is when an artist challenges itself to create something that makes people uncomfortable, makes some people feel, you know, incredible feelings, and leaves other people feeling very confused at the very end. And the imagery, the vision behind the record, which seemed to have been way too ambitious for even Gaga herself, and the music and the lyricism behind this record is the work of someone who was not afraid to take it there. And I feel like she has redefined yet again what it means to be a pop star with this record, and will continue to inspire so many up and coming artists for the next 15 years. There, I said it. Anyways, that is the end of the top 40 albums of the decade. Also, this is the final sit-down video I am filming for Vlogmas and for the rest of the year and the decade. Crazy to think that. So, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and comment down below which albums you feel what I should have put on this list. And also subscribe if you're new, because the best way to pay themselves help us out. And I will see you for Vlogmas Day 23. Wow, that is so crazy. Day 23. My goodness. Bye.